Good evening. We begin with the latest in the case of an off-duty Vancouver police officer shot and killed outside his home. A Clark County deputy was the one who pulled the trigger in an apparent case of mistaken identity. Tonight, we're hearing from the mother of the robbery suspect deputies were chasing before the deadly shooting. Mike Benner has more on that and the deputy who fired his gun.
I felt bad. I wasn't okay.
Ava Segura is in disbelief over the deadly shooting of an off-duty Vancouver police officer, namely because her son, Julio Segura, is at the center of it.
He wasn't okay. Maybe that's why he acted like this time.
From her home in Yakima, Washington, Ava told us in Spanish how Julio struggled with his mental health, but he still managed to help her pay rent, pay the cell phone bill, and run errands, among other things. Ava paints a very different picture of her son, who was accused of robbing a convenience store Saturday night. Authorities say Julio took off in a getaway car, only to ditch it miles away because police were chasing him. Julio went to a nearby home and started banging on the door. The home belonged to off-duty Vancouver police officer Donald Sahota, who got into a fight with Julio. Julio stabbed Sahota multiple times before trying to get into the house. That's when Clark County Deputy Jonathan Feller arrived and fired several rounds from his rifle, killing Sahota in what appears to be a case of mistaken identity. Feller is one of 3 deputies who were involved in a high-profile fatal shooting in 2020.
And I can see the gun is in his right hand. It's at his waist level, and it's at his waist, pointed out from his waist, and the barrel's pointed right at me.
That is the voice of Deputy Feller. He's describing the deadly shooting of Kevin Peterson Jr. during a drug sting gone bad in October 2020.
I started shooting him, and all I could think of was center mass, center mass, center mass, because that was my best way to stop him.
Feller and the 2 other deputies were ultimately cleared of any wrongdoing in connection to the Peterson shooting. But less than 2 years later, Feller has been identified as the deputy involved in another deadly shooting, this time of an off-duty Vancouver police officer.
For the officer who died, I'm very sorry to his family.
Ava Segura apologizes to the Sahota family for the role her son played in the tragedy. As you heard right there, Ava Segura is sorry, but she's also conflicted. She knows her son could very well have been killed Saturday night. She's relieved he wasn't. She just wishes nobody was killed. In the meantime, her son, Julio Segura, remains behind bars tonight, bail set at $5 million, and Deputy Feller remains on leave. Back to you.
In the pandemic, there are some hopeful trends in both Oregon and Washington tonight. Today, state health officials in Washington held a briefing on the COVID situation. They say cases are starting to trend downward in Western Washington. However, it's not all good news. Health officials are concerned about Eastern Washington. Hospitals there are dealing with a sharp rise in COVID patients needing treatment. COVID case numbers are trending downward in Oregon as well. The dotted lines you see here on this graph show the moving average of new cases, which you can see has been curving down for the last week or so. Hospitalizations aren't quite trending down yet, but they do appear to be leveling off. About 1,100 people are in the hospital with COVID in Oregon right now. Free N95 masks are now available at pharmacies around Oregon and Washington. We stopped by the Fred Meyer in the Hollywood district today where masks were available. Customers are limited to 3 masks apiece while supplies last. Albertsons, Safeway, Costco, CVS, Rite Aid, Walgreens and Walmart are also getting masks from the federal government to hand out to customers. A school district in Cowlitz County, about 50 miles north of Vancouver, has a levy on the ballot, and some plan to vote no to protest masks in schools. Like Oregon, kids in Washington are required to wear them in the classroom. Superintendent Ryan Green of Castle Rock School says there are families and community members who strongly oppose masks in schools. Green says some have either voted no on the school levy or have threatened to vote no if the district doesn't change the mask requirement. This comes as a group of people protested against masks outside a school yesterday. The superintendent says he understands the frustration, but argues the state pays 82% of the district's budget, and he says there's no other option but to comply.
If we don't follow the state mandate, then we lose, for us in our community, we lose about $1.3 million a month in apportionment. And that's huge. We would go bankrupt in about a month and a half, 2 months.
Green says the school levy is meant to pay for things like choir and sports. If it fails, he says the district will try again in April for another levy. Millions of kids under the age of 5 are one step closer to becoming eligible for a COVID vaccine. Pfizer is requesting emergency authorization of its 2-dose vaccine for that age group. It's the only age group still ineligible for vaccination. If approved, babies as young as 6 months old could get a COVID vaccine in the U.S. in a few weeks. But a new study finds many parents remain cautious about the vaccine. Just 31% say they would vaccinate kids under 5 right away. 29% will wait and see, while 26% say they will definitely not vaccinate their youngest kids.
The COVID vaccine, if anything, is under more scrutiny than ever before, and we just haven't seen major concerns with safety of these vaccines.
One potential concern in a clinical trial, 2 doses failed to produce a strong immune response among kids aged 2 to 4. Instead, only kids between 6 months and 2 years old had a response comparable to that of older kids and younger adults. An FDA advisory panel will meet February 15th to consider Pfizer's request. As we've been reporting, worker shortages are impacting many industries right now, from hospitality and food service to education, transportation, and healthcare. Tonight, we want to narrow the focus and take a look at mental health services. Alma McCarty joins us now. And Alma, there's more need for this type of care right now, but it's harder than ever to fill those positions.
Yeah, I spoke with the CEO of LifeWorks Northwest, which has been providing addiction and mental health services in our area for 6 decades. It almost goes without saying, these services are so important, but it's becoming harder to get them between a shrinking workforce and a greater burden placed on current staff.
It's been a long couple of years. In that time, Mary Monnet says more people of all ages have realized they might need help to deal with things like anxiety, depression, addiction.
We're at, honestly, a really tough crossroads.
She explains mental health and addiction services providers like LifeWorks Northwest want to rise to meet the need. But right now, she says they're in a world of hurt.
We have this collision of increased need, lessening of the workforce, and it's just led to, honestly, a crisis in our field where we're having fewer and fewer workers to do the most critical work that's honestly life-saving work.
Monnet says mental health professionals are doing their best to keep things stable, like taking on more existing patients. But there are limits.
But imagine, you're in crisis, you need care, and we say, yeah, we'll see in 3 months.
For LifeWorks Northwest right now, compared to pre-pandemic, there are 30% fewer new people entering into the system for care because there isn't capacity to accept them. The provider employs nearly 575 people, but there are more than 90 job openings. Across the Portland area, Monnet estimates there are about 500 open jobs between the other big mental health organizations.
Pre-pandemic, we had same-day access. It was a model we used, just come on in, like we don't want any barriers. With the pandemic, we can't operate, because COVID. More, it was the workforce, right? We can't accommodate people coming in like that.
The focus now, keeping the professionals they do have while finding ways to attract new workers. Monnet says retention and hiring bonuses only go so far. While the people drawn to the profession aren't in it for the money, wages must improve.
It's all about the base. We have to get that higher so we can continue to build and to have a workforce that's sustainable, a wage that's sustainable, that lets people plan for the future.
In March, LifeWorks Northwest and other organizations will partner up through the Washington County nonprofit Vision Action Network to hold a summit to address workforce challenges.
We've always offered support, but we're trying to just get more and more creative about how do we keep the people we have engaged and supported.
Now, clearly the pandemic revealed many issues, but Monnet tells me there is a silver lining here. Telehealth. LifeWorks Northwest pivoted to provide services virtually, something she believes will have its place and stick around for good.
Thank you, Alma. And while finding regular mental health care is harder, as Alma was saying, there's always someone to talk to if you're in crisis. We want to make sure you know the number for the National Suicide Prevention Lifeline. It's 1-800-273-8255. Or to help you remember, it's 1-800-273-TALK.